It is 10:59, almost 11 p.m. on the west coast of the United States, of course. It is 0600 GMT.
It's 11 o'clock.
Now it's 11 o'clock. Thank you, Hal. This is cBas After Dark for the last day of the week. It's April 2nd, 2015. Thanks for being here. A couple of things to bring to you. I had a couple of questions that popped up in the Trekkie chat, as I often refer to it here. The funny thing is I cannot watch the Trekkie chat and keep my mind. I mean, it's hard enough keeping my mind on what I'm trying to say on the show without like sort of watching a chat room throwing me shit. That said, if you want to throw me shit, this is the way to do it. Either tweet me at Sebastian Kuntz or send a text message or a phone call to this phone number, 310-776-KUNTZ. That's 310-776-5869. In fact, I'll even put my Twitter up just so you can bother me, harass me, so forth that way. The update, first of all, in fact, I will even pull up again. If you were here last night, or if you care to watch last night's show, you saw me doing news bloopers. One of the news bloopers I did was actually not a blooper so much as a sort of punk prank type mistake that KTVU Channel 2 in San Francisco bit down on, and they bit down hard. KTVU news blooper is what I'm going to put because that's the one that brings it up, and holy crap, is it embarrassing. Let's watch it first of all, and then you'll hear my complaint about what's wrong with the situation, and then we will give you the update. It's a pretty fast update, but let's switch over to it here. The pilots of Asiana Flight 214 were supposedly discovered for the first time. The names of the pilots. And I'm...
has just learned the names of the 4 pilots who were on board the flight. They are Captain Sum Ting Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Lee Fook, and Bang Ding Ao. And the NTSB has confirmed these are the names of the pilots on board Flight 214 when it crashed. We are working to determine exactly what roles each of them played during the landing.
All right, that's it. Captain Something Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Lee Fook, Bang Ding Ao. In case you haven't seen this before, it should strike you right away that that's a bunch of bullshit. That is, in fact, not any kind of actual listing of any kind of pilot. First of all, why are there 4 names? One of them supposedly an engineer, one of them supposedly a navigator, whatever the hell. That's bullshit. But the really great thing is that, as I said, it's not like there was no fallout from that. Somebody faxed them or emailed them those names with a straight face, said to them, these are the names of the pilots. They've just been named. Here are the names. Sum Ting Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Lee Fook, Bang Ding Ao. Now, obviously, it's bullshit. A producer, I think the lead producer of that new newscast was allowed to retire earlier than he would have. A couple of people did get fired. The younger underlings, like the people who essentially brought those names into the first place without understanding that they were not serious. Here's the update, the actual update. Tori Campbell is the news anchor who read that. Now, as I pointed out, in many cases, the person on TV is a major manager type person in the news, and other times not. She was not a major manager, but she is a professional journalist and should have known better. She did not know better. She did not stop herself from saying Sum Ting Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Lee Fook, and Bang Ding Ao. Well, Tori Campbell is retiring. Well, she's sort of leaving KTVU. She's famous on the YouTube. KTVU has tried to apologize. Let's go ahead and look at her saying goodbye. This is actually from the official KTVU account. And we'll go ahead and watch her. She was at KTVU for 19 years. That's no small amount of time to be at any workplace, much less, KTVU, the gold standard station, or at least what used to be the gold standard. They're now called Fox 2. Not only are they affiliated with Fox, they're owned and operated by Fox. So they're going downhill fast, but let's watch.
7:45. Well, it's a little hard to believe, but actually I've been here at KTVU for 19 years. In fact, yesterday was the 19th anniversary of my first day on the air, and we pulled a couple clips from that day, so take a look.
Yeah.
Tori Campbell, now the new co-anchor here with Frank.
Officially starting to April Fools, isn't it perfect? I know, I love it. I think, well, if I mess up, I can just say April Fools.
Did you wonder if you arrived this morning if it was going to be a big joke at the door?
Yeah. Yeah, a little like Throwback Thursday, and yeah, I know it's always kind of a little awkward to look at some of the fashion and the hairstyles from way back when.
You look good even back then.
Oh, you're so kind. You're so kind. Well, actually, we have another person we can flash back to. I'm going to share another funny moment when actually I was introduced to Sal on this day 19 years ago. Check this out. Yeah.
Hey, Sal, I've got somebody I want you to meet here. You haven't met Tori yet, I don't think.
You know, actually, I have met Tori.
Sal and I know each other.
Yes, we do.
I didn't know you knew each other.
Yes.
Well, then do the traffic.
But I have a tip for you anyway, Tori.
Yeah.
Check this out.
A tip.
Whatever, Frank. You know, he starts talking about, there was a time that I went to Connecticut. Whatever, Frank. That's a tip for you.
Yeah, Sal was a funny guy way back then, even with those kind of interesting glasses. Very 90s look there, Sal. So, yeah, as Steve said, we were all young ones.
First time I saw them. Wow.
You're like, who is that guy?
Who is that?
Yeah. So I am marking this 19th anniversary. It feels kind of appropriate to announce that I'm actually going to be leaving the station soon.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm not leaving today. My last day will actually be in the middle of June. But I want you to know that this really was not an easy decision for me to make, but it just felt like the right time for me to leave the broadcast industry and pursue some other passions in my life before I get ready to go off to the home, as Ross would say. But it's been quite simply the biggest honor of my life to have worked for such an esteemed news organization. It was so many wonderful, wonderful people for nearly 2 decades. And I'm immensely grateful for having had the privilege of delivering the news directly to you every morning and noon. And I look forward to continuing to do that for at least a couple more months anyway. So not going away just yet. I'll still be here for a little while.
And I'll still be holding on to you.
I know. Yes, I said I might have to hold your hand real tight
we
once in a
hold
while.
on to each other and enjoying the kindness and professionalism.
Well, thank you. I really
There's
appreciate
Sal.
that.
Steve agrees with me.
Don't want to say
Tori, who else can make fun of me the way you?
Yes.
What's that, Sal? Who else can make fun of me the way Tori?
Yeah, Sal and I go way, way back. So, yeah, we like to give each other a hard time.
I met Tori when she was a radio newswoman.
Yes, I was in
so she
radio.
made the transition from radio to television, and a seamless one. I'm very proud of you for that.
Well, thank you.
Just kind of walked right in and just took charge, and look at you now.
I
flies the ship.
I tried my best. So.
Hey, Sal, you can take us where we're headed now on our computer.
Right now, we can. As a matter of fact, let's. And by the way, we'll be making another. Should be doing it again at 8:50. So you may want to get the DVR all ready for that. We're gonna do it again in the 8 o'clock hour.
Wow. Okay. That was much sort of more emotional for me than I thought it was going to be. Because here's the thing. I was a radio guy. I don't know. I didn't want to start crying, but like Sal Castaneda is somebody who I know. You could see that he does it from another studio than the rest of those news people. And in fact, in that clip they showed from 19 years ago, it would have been the mid to late 90s, I guess. And well before I ever got to the Bay Area, he was working for an outfit called Metro Traffic, which got bought by the Clear Channel people, and then all of a sudden we all worked together. So Sal Castaneda is somebody I'm very familiar with, and he's aware of who I am, and I really like that guy. Sal Castaneda is among the best of the business. I'm a little jealous of how awesome his job kind of is, but oh wow, I see. That's not what I thought it was. Anyway, so Tori Campbell leaving, and leaving the broadcast industry after. I mean, where do you go if you don't go to a network or some kind of other upwardly mobile place? You leave the industry after you work at KTVU. There is no place higher on that ladder to work than KTVU. Should she have been fired for what she did and that failure of hers to realize that she was being punked? I kind of thought yes, in some ways. It had to depend on the day that you caught me. Sometimes I absolutely thought she deserved to be fired because, frankly, I felt like I deserved to be somebody who was in that place. You don't just jump to working from radio to KTVU, although I think she did. So it's not like it's unheard of. I don't know. I mean, am I getting out of the broadcast industry too? I guess I am. Not that I want to. Will I ever be back? All of my friends who love me get angry with me when I even ask that question. They're like, you are born to be a broadcaster and your career is not over. People in the broadcasting industry, people who've never been on a broadcast booth once in their lives, they're all, I occasionally, you know, I'm real emotional about having been fired, never having been able to be hired again by another broadcast. People are flabbergasted, and it sounds stupid. Like if you're, a lot of people, regular people, who sort of just feel like, you know, broadcasters are just people and I could do that job. I could do that job. In fact, I do that job better than that numbnuts on the air kind of a thing. That's a very common sentiment. I've known people who went from regular civilian life, if you will, to broadcasting industry people and did it fairly well. I've known people who did it very badly in that same jump. In general, you start off in a small town and then you kind of build up to being in a big city, and I made it. I felt like I'd made it when I got to Clear Channel in San Francisco. I worked there almost 8 years. You know, that's a long time. Certainly the longest time I ever spent at any one place of work. Brought to you by Belch Beer. Brought to you by Code Red Mountain Dew, actually. I love that joke, but I always feel necessary to clarify because I don't drink beer ever in my life, ever. And so whenever I make that joke, which I think is a very funny joke, right? By the way, brought to you by Belch Beer. That's a lot of B's. But then I'm like, I'm not sitting here drinking beer, getting fucked up on the air while I'm talking to you because I don't drink alcohol at all. So as much as I'm angry at KTVU, well, yeah, as specifically Tori at times for having made that mistake, everybody's, I guess, deserving of a mistake. She survived it. Bless her heart. Here's the thing. She's not bad. In fact, she's very, very good. That's why on a good day, I would be like, everybody's entitled to a mistake, and God bless her for having survived it. Many people who are not as good wouldn't have survived it. She's one of those people who's not the slut in the, you know, I mean, I guess it's offensive to say that about girls on TV, but she's not one of those sluts on Fox News. She's not one of those girls in an evening gown with no sleeves, sitting seductively on and not behind the glass anchor desk. You know what I'm saying? She was always extremely professional. Obviously smart, obviously charismatic, you know, she had it going on and she was good. And having watched that clip now live with you at the same time you saw it on this show, I was unprepared for how sad I would be. Now, what my one friend said on Facebook was, hey, white courtesy phone, cBas, there's a job opening at KTVU. If only it were that easy, you know, if only I could just be like, oh, no one else is going to apply. They get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications every time there's even the slightest job opening there. You know, for part-time janitor, KTVU gets enormous applications from people who want to work there, from other people in the Bay Area, from people in every other town in California, from people in every other town in every other state in the union, from probably other countries. KTVU is that famous. It's that famous, and it's not because of any reason other than they're that good. Were that good. Again, I will say that their Fox ownership and operation, the O&O status of them, is going to send them plummeting in the ratings, plummeting in the news quality. It's not going to be good. And I don't think they're going to be able to hold on to the good people. That's probably the real reason she's leaving, is not because she made the mistake and is, you know, immortalized on YouTube forever as having said bang, ding, ow, some ting wong, but, and not realizing it. God, I still don't believe she didn't realize it. That said, it's not a happy announcement. It's a really sad announcement. I probably should not do this show after watching Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, my favorite movie. It is my favorite movie, but it has a pretty downer ending if you know anything about it. And yet it doesn't. But we're going to talk about that coming up. One of the things I wanted to talk about as I was sort of reviewing the show last night. I don't always watch this show afterward, but it's an important thing to air check yourself. What if you don't know broadcasting terms? An air check is a recording of yourself doing a bit or on a bit on the radio if you're a comedy guy, or a newscast on the radio if you're a news guy. I have been privileged to do both. Viewers of this show have heard and seen clips I have done in the past, many years in the past even. Some of which are comedy, some of which were news. But I will say that, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. Air checking the show. During the air check of the show last night, I happened to sort of, I was driven nuts. I drove myself nuts by listening to myself blab. So one thing I know is I talk way too goddamn much. But it's my own talk show, and I'm supposed to kind of talk about things that are interesting to me. Anyway, one of the things I cannot do, as I said, is monitor the Trekkie chat at the same time as I'm doing this show. Now, I actually could. I'm actually looking at it right now. Of course, nobody's watching right now, thank God, because this is a really kind of insider baseball episode of this show in the first place. But one of the questions I got, oh, God, who was it? Oh, it was Hannibal, the guy who goes by Hannibal in the Trekkie chat. Hi, Hannibal. Sorry I didn't get to your question last night during the show, but you asked, what is tape delay? And I thought, what an interesting question. I actually thought everybody knew what tape delay was. Like, I sort of skip over the kindergarten and grade school kind of new media terms, just assuming that, well, I mean, again, as I said, I air checked myself last night. I drive myself nuts talking about shit and explaining, over-explaining sometimes shit that I feel like is not necessary to explain. So I try not to do that. And I try desperately to skip over. Apparently I said something about tape delay, and he's like, okay, what is tape delay? I don't know. I mean, that is such a basic question that at first I thought, okay, is he being a smartass? Did I honestly not explain it? I mean, I know I didn't explain it, but I mean, does he honestly not know what it is? Are there people who don't know what tape delay is? It's a very simple thing. And if I don't mean to denigrate people who ask simple questions, it's just that I feel stupid. It's like, why is there air? Or, why do we drink liquid? Or why do we, why is the sky blue, kind of a thing? Like, I try to skip over the basic kindergartner questions, hoping that people will at least not feel like I'm talking down to them. Tape delay is a very simple thing. Most of the broadcasts that happen for the first time live on the East Coast of the United States, meaning the New York time zone. If you happen to be out of the country and you're watching this, New York, North and South Carolina, all the way down to Florida, above it, New York, Maine, also like Vermont, New Hampshire, those states. I guess I could show a map, but what the fuck ever. I'm talking specifically about news broadcasts now. Many news broadcasts, not CNN, not like live cable news channels that are on 24 hours a day. You're talking about the Today Show on NBC, Good Morning America on ABC, CBS This Morning on CBS, the CBS Evening News, the NBC Nightly News, and ABC's World News Tonight. Those are all broadcasts that happen once, and they're kind of presented as though they were live. They're certainly live if you live in New York or Florida or North and South Carolina, that kind of place. And maybe even like Georgia. I'm not sure if Georgia is in the Eastern time zone as well. When you're in the Eastern time zone, everything you see news-wise is live. When you're in the Mountain and Pacific time zones, almost always, those shows you see are 2 to 3 hours old. In fact, if you watch closely, and this is something I've complained about before, in the NBC Nightly News particularly, many of those reports where it says so-and-so is standing by for us now, Jim Axelrod is standing by live with the report. Jim, and he's like, yes, Brian, we're here live at the scene where they're not live very often. The times when they are there live is when you see a clock up on the screen. Live, Eastern, 6:36 p.m., Sweden time, 11:36 p.m. kind of a thing. You'll see sometimes a 2 time zone clock on there, sometimes just the Eastern time. But watch closely. If you're in the West Coast of the United States, what you see is live 6:36 Eastern Daylight Time. So you realize that you're watching this at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time. And what a tape delay is a show that was recorded 3 hours earlier and presented as though it were live in the time zone where you are. Sports are not usually done that way, I don't think. Let me try to think of other shows. The Tonight Show, tape delayed. I think it's usually taped at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon and then presented at 10:35 p.m., 11:35 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. A show like, what was I going to say? Saturday Night Live as a great example, right? Where it is presented as a live show. In fact, it is, they do a rehearsal, they build up to it all week, and then at 11:30 p.m. Pacific time, Eastern time, 11:30 p.m. Eastern time, they go, 3, 2, 1, and we're live, and they do the show live. Why don't they just do it on tape and edit? Well, I think in general, when it's presented live, it's kind of seen as a little more, legitimate, real. It's just seen as better. I think live comedy is better than if it were, taped, edited comedy. It depends on the kind of comedy. Certain types of comedy are meant to be done live as live can be. That's a term from Monday Night Nitro when they were doing their broadcast live to the nation. Now, again, the Tonight Show is done live. In other words, it is not taped and edited. It is recorded at a time in the afternoon and then played back 6 hours later as though it were live, right? And what they do is they say good evening instead of good afternoon. We're here tonight, blah, blah, blah. The Tonight Show, blah, blah, blah. But it's not live. The things you see that are live are things like CNN or Fox News, that kind of thing. Those are usually live shows, live news broadcasts happening this minute. Now, occasionally on the West Coast, if there is major enough breaking news, a newscast like NBC Nightly News will do a second edition or a West Coast edition where they actually do a second version of their same newscast, at least a chunk of it, live a second time for the newscast. The Today Show, for instance, did it a few times. I remember in the old Brian Gumbel, Katie Couric days, the Today Show would stay on from 7 to 9 Eastern. And then when it's 9 a.m. Eastern, it is like 7 a.m. Mountain or something like that. I guess, whatever. And they would stay on the air. They would go off the air at like 8:57 a.m. And then they'd wait 3 minutes and they'd go, okay. And we're coming back live now for the West Coast of the United States. Maybe even the East Coast people aren't seeing it, but the people on the West Coast who, because of some news that has happened in a very serious, urgent way, will be presented as though it will be presented actually live instead of as though it were live. When I say Saturday Night Live is done live, yeah, it's live if you're on the East Coast. Whenever you watch it on the West Coast of the United States, what you see is a little thing at the beginning going, the program you are about to see is a retransmission of a program broadcast live earlier this evening, or the simple phrase, recorded earlier. That's kind of the catch-all phrase, certainly the one that was used in the 80s and 90s, even the 70s, I think, when they started figuring out that they could do the tape delay and having people kind of not know, having it be kind of good enough, essentially, for the most part. I don't want to keep talking about that, but tape delay is when they, do a show live on one time zone. Excuse me. So there. They do a show live on one time zone, whether it's NBC Nightly News or Saturday Night Live or something like that. Have a tape recording the whole thing. And then when 10:30 or 11:30 comes along in the Pacific time zone, they hit play on that tape and present it in the same live way and pretty much unedited. That's the other thing, is for the most part, those shows, when they're tape delayed, are not edited. In the case of news, sometimes stuff will be inserted if more news has happened or there's been an update to a story. In the case of Saturday Night Live, the only edits they ever seem to probably do are if there's kind of a profanity that is uttered, they'll bleep it. If something really unexpected happens, like a person should run onto, I don't know of any cases where a person ran onto the set, necessitating them clipping it out or whatever. It's not impossible, but I really don't remember that ever happening. That was weird. So that's essentially the long explanation for what is tape delay. It's a show recorded live in one time zone, presented as though it were live in another time zone, hoping that for the most part, most people don't notice. Another great example, by the way, New Year's Eve, right? We're all counting down to midnight on New Year's Eve. Well, we were watching Carson Daly in Los Angeles count down to New Year's Eve. Carson Daly, he's in New York. He's watching the ball drop in New York. Well, we all know that New York's midnight comes 3 hours earlier than LA's midnight. So that program is tape delayed, right? It's, again, taped live, edited only in the case of profanity or something really bizarre or tragic happening, and then rebroadcast in its entirety from stem to stern, beginning to end, until, as though it were live. So that's the long-ass 10-minute version of what is tape delay. Okay. I didn't really want to keep talking about more media stuff. We'll do more media on Media Watch Wednesday next week. I had a lot of stuff, though, to bring to you. I don't know, just kind of generic news stories. They finally tried to fix that Indiana fucking anti-gay bill. Nobody wants to call it the anti-gay bill. They want to call it the Religious Freedom Act. Here's the thing about that, and I haven't talked much about it because it's like so obvious to me that A, not only is it not about religious freedom, it's about being, legitimizing discrimination against homosexuals or people, anybody you want, on the basis of religious freedom. And I still don't get these people who are, the Onion had it best when they said that, the Indiana governor declares that this bill is not about what it was specifically about. Something like that. It was really, really good. But the problem is they didn't really do a good enough job. Indiana's still a shithole state, and I've seen a lot of good people come out of the woodwork, but it's not good enough. I'll still never go there. I will absolutely never, ever, ever go there. The bad people in Indiana ruin it for the good people. They're just like Missouri. Missouri is a shithole. It is the worst state in the union. I hate Texas. I don't like Alabama. All those kind of Southern Bible Belt redneck piece of shit states. I hate them. And will never go. And I've worked in Kansas. I spent a year in Kansas, and it was not a bad year. The people in Kansas were not overly conservative, or not in my face, certainly. I'm kind of a keep to myself kind of guy in the first place, so I don't really go waving flags in people's faces. But that said, that Indiana bill is a piece of shit. The state of Indiana is a piece of shit. That governor is an exceeding, colossal, steaming pile of shit. And, it's really too little too late. Let's preview a couple stories in the nerd news that I want to do coming on Monday. Nerd News Monday. Google makes you feel smart. Google tricks you into feeling smarter. We'll cover that story. A teacher takes an axe to the nuts in a physics demonstration. That was a pretty interesting story. The button for ordering. I still have not determined if this is a April Fool's gag, because the story came out on March 31st / April 1st, depending on exactly which time zone you're talking about. There's a new really rockin' campus for the company of Facebook in the San Francisco Bay Area, where I used to live. AT&T fiber privacy. Google Fiber, high-speed broadband kind of cool thing is happening. AT&T's got a similar thing, high-speed broadband fiber internet. But if you don't want them to monitor your web browsing and present to you tailored ads specifically to the things that your emails and web browsing is about, yes, they're reading your email. Yes, they are monitoring your web chat, your web searches. And if you don't want them to do that, you're going to pay like between $60 and $140 a month, kind of a thing, just for the privilege of not having your shit spied on. More things in the privacy file. Looks like they're trying to revive the bill to completely repeal the Patriot Act. Whether or not that'll happen. I never got to a lot of these stories in the most recent nerd news. The Google Fiber is launching in other places. Is Riker awesome or overrated? Kind of a Star Trek story. Maybe I'll do that tonight. And paying for YouTube. If you have somebody you like on YouTube, like Jerry Seinfeld's Comedian in Cars Getting Coffee kind of a show, would you pay to see it before everybody else gets to see it? Eventually it will go up free on YouTube, but some people are considering that. The Final Frontier file, Mars One. The finalists there for that Mars One program have announced it's a scam. A couple of stories in the green file. Recycling plastic is going down the tubes because much of our recycled plastic was being sent to China, except China has now started a new law this year, and they don't want certain kinds of plastic or plastic for certain places or something like that. So essentially, that whole thing is going away. Sorry, I have kind of this sore spot where I think I was bitten by a bug. Let's look here. I kind of want to talk about entertainment and TV. As I said, I just watched Star Trek 2. I've talked about Star Trek before. The Star Trek movies, not the J.J. Abrams diarrhea fest. Those J.J. Abrams movies are shit, and if you like them, you're not a true Trekkie. For that matter, if Star Trek 1 bores you to tears, you're also not a true Trekkie. Real true Trekkies, and I will say it until I die, do not get bored during those scenes that approach the ship in the 1979 motion picture. True Trekkies get tingles and goosebumps, not bored, and they're not looking at their watches. If you're looking at your watch bored off your cunt because you are watching a Star Trek 1, the motion picture from 1979, you are not a true Trekkie. I'm sorry to say that. I did a couple of stories. We'll look at the Justice File, maybe on Sunday, kind of a news program to kick off our Sunday. Justice File, a couple of cases of the Border Patrol, border agents specifically, being charged with child abuse or child molestation. At least 2 cases in southern Arizona, and that really bothers me. Also, the scanning of license plates. I talked about this in a teaser, but we never got to it. The public records request from Ars Technica. They scan every license plate that is in certain places in Oakland. They just kind of have, I don't know if they're stationary scanners or if they move around, if they're like in police vans kind of a thing, but they scan license plates looking for deadbeats who don't pay their registration, people who are being sought, for whatever, something more serious. Yeah, they keep them. if you're licensed, if you've ever driven through Oakland, they have you on file. They know where you went to some degree. And when the Ars Technica folks did a public records request, I think it's a Freedom of Information Act request for the license plate scans that they kept. You got 4.6 million license plate scans. Now, that's not 4.6 million license plates. Many of them were scanned many times, maybe even a dozen or more times. So it's not like the license plate scan is per car. 4.6 million cars, not true. But 4.6 million scans from the Oakland Police Department were released to Ars Technica. And I think even some data, again, I'm not sure if the scanner is stationary or if they include the location with the scan. That's a pretty scary situation. Ted Cruz signing up for Obamacare, what the fuck ever. That guy's a fucking retard. And I'm sorry, that's actually offensive to the mentally retarded folks with any kind of mental illness, because obviously Ted Cruz is much, much, much more just kind of less as a person in an overall sense than folks who are mentally ill in some way or another. The solar hackathon, I'm dying to read you that story. That's such a great story, the solar hackathon. That's in the energy file. In the transit file, oh yeah, okay. They had a no-cost fix. That's a very common sense no-cost fix for train crashes. It has been rejected. We will talk about that coming up. Also in the transit file, that's actually 2 copies of that same story. So that's the only story from the transit file I have saved up right now. We did the WTF file, the homo file, a couple of the Indiana law backlash. I found that interesting. In fact, there was an owner of a pizza restaurant who is now crying, sad, because they were one of the only businesses that I saw. I covered that. I looked at that story pretty carefully. Pretty terrifying, law, and it was fascinating to me, to the point where now here's the thing: what was that Indiana law supposed to be? They kept claiming it was patterned after both the other 19 states that have the law and the federal law that it was patterned after from 1993. That federal law was created in the wake of a case of Native American folks who were, I think, arrested and jailed or got in trouble for taking peyote. Peyote is, one of those hallucinogenic drugs. I've never taken peyote, but I'm very much a libertarian when it comes to anybody should have the freedom to ingest anything they want. And, the smart people will stay away from heroin. These stupid people will not. I think that's kind of been borne out when we're looking at this marijuana thing. It's happening molasses slow, but people are realizing that marijuana is an example of a drug that is not going to cause reefer madness. It's not going to cause society to break down. In fact, it's going to improve society, as we're finding out, from a tax money perspective, from a sort of just general legitimacy perspective, from a criminal perspective, from a crime perspective, where you're taking the marijuana out of the people who are criminal, and you're taking it off the black market, and you're making it kind of like an alcohol, like you go to a liquor store. I went to a marijuana dispensary, not a medical marijuana one, when I was in Denver for New Year's. I went to a regular old marijuana place, and it was fascinating because it's like, oh my God, you can't even really believe such a place exists. And they have cookies and candy and, sodas and every kind of, what's it called? Tinctures? I don't know what a tincture is. In fact, I feel like I should look that up really fast because I've read this before. What is a tincture? It's some kind of, is that the liquid you put under your tongue kind of a thing? Let's just go to Google. Tincture. A tincture is typically an alcoholic extract of a plant or animal material or solution of such or of a low volatility substance. To qualify as an alcoholic tincture, the extract should have an ethanol percentage of at least 25 to 60%. That's really, really strong. So maybe it's like instead of a super weak extract of alcohol, or in this case, tetrahydrocannabinol, the marijuana, it's extra strong. So for the people who do need it for medicinal purposes, for relief of nausea, or to instigate sleep, or to relieve migraines, or to stimulate appetite, all of those things. I feel like that's something I did not know about. All right, so tincture of cannabis, tincture of alcohol. I did not know about either of those. So I feel like, when we're talking about drugs, I firmly believe that. Backing up to the Indiana law and the law that preceded it and what precipitated the federal law in 1993, it was Native Americans who took peyote for their religious reasons and then got in trouble for it. That is respectable and honorable to create a law to stop that from happening. It is absolutely something that should be done. That is the kind of religious freedom that they're talking about. Not the kind of religious freedom that allows you to deny your service, no matter what the service is. Here's the thing. People, the super conservatives, the libertarian people, let the free market do it. The free market, no. You cannot let the free market do certain things, and you cannot let polls or the general consensus of the public do certain things, because if the general consensus were in charge, black people cannot marry white people, black people could probably still be slaves. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a whole lot of things that the general morons in the overall public, certainly the voting public or whatever, cannot be trusted to do. Certain things are unjust, even if they're all voted on, kind of a thing. Prop 8, a great example, right? Prop 8 was approved by the voters in California because the religious knockheads got their they rallied their horses and whatever the hell, and got the Prop 8 pushed through, despite the fact that it got overturned and completely undone and completely annihilated and completely castrated and completely reversed in the ensuing years later. I followed that really closely. So you can't just trust the general public. You can't just trust the what am I trying to say? The sort of the free market kind of a thing. What the results of what am I trying to say? Deregulating. That's what I'm trying to say. You know why you can't just let the corporate world do its thing? Because that's what precipitates, the bank foreclosure crisis and the people who are taking advantage of other people who are too stupid to realize they're signing a bullshit mortgage, kind of a thing. That's the kind of shit that happens when you just deregulate, wipe your hands of it, and say, let the chips fall where they may. Free market, free economy, free country, blah, blah, blah. There are certain things that are not just that result in that because people abuse it. They do. So this is another one of those cases where you just can't let the free market, free economy kind of bullshit, because yes, to a certain degree, gay people will go to another pizza place, but that's still not just. That is still not justice in a real way. It is still seen as, intrusive and discriminatory in a very real way to sort of go out proudly and, and declare you're not going to serve a certain class of people. Whether it's black people, whether it's gay people, that here's the thing. And Penn Jillette said it. Let's bring up this Penn Jillette thing, because that Penn Jillette thing, what was it? Indiana law, because it was a great story. In fact, let me bring it up to you so you can read it along with me, because it's really quite something. Penn Jillette did it. He did it in a succinct, funny way, and it makes enormous sense. I think he did it on CNN. No one's forcing you to have gay sex. Let's see. This is actually from CNN. Hopefully we can play a video here. Look at him. He's just so awesome. He's so funny. He's so entertaining, but he's also brilliantly smart. These people are not being asked to engage in gay sex or even endorse gay sex, said Penn Jillette. What the hell's going on? Good
Say you're a finance guy.
Oh my God. No, I don't want IBM, the ad. I just want you to shut up. All right, I got to hit mute there. I'm so sorry about that. I work hard to try and not have fucking ads play during the show. But fortunately, I can mute it. Okay. These people are not being asked to engage in gay sex or even endorse gay sex, says Penn Jillette. Is this going to play now?
But Penn, what I want to know is what's your reaction to what's happening right now in Arkansas and Indiana and possibly in Georgia as well?
Well, I don't want to misrepresent myself as an expert, but there is more to gay sex than cake and flowers. These people are not being asked to engage in gay sex or even endorse gay sex. They're being asked to sell flowers and cake to people. And that is hypothetical. Now, I'm a libertarian and an atheist, so I'm kind of fighting myself on this. I don't like the government involved in telling people what to do, and I certainly want people to have religious freedom, because the only way people who don't have religion are going to have freedom is if people who do have religion have freedom. But all the same, we have to make sure we don't get too crazy in the hypotheticals. We are not talking about forcing people to engage in gay sex or even endorse gay sex. We're asking them that maybe they can treat people the same as other people, and that does not seem unreasonable. It's okay, I suppose, although goofy, to be against gays, but it's not okay to be against people that simply want to use your services as a business. I mean, the free market should be able to take care of this faster than anything.
Go ahead, Kristen.
The only hypotheticals here are the hypotheticals that somehow there's been discrimination in any way outside of the free exercise and free expression context. I suspect that if we were to ask journalists whether they need to be coerced into writing messages with which they have a disagreement, they would have a problem with that. In the same way we wouldn't.
Well, journalists all the time. Journalists all the time write things they disagree with.
we do it all the time. We talk about things that we disagree with all the time.
I'd like to say something about.
As a matter of fact,
American has
right
the right
now,
to live consistent with their beliefs.
As you speak, CNN is allowing you to say things they don't agree with. As you speak, you are proving it to not be true.
Well, I don't know if
They do
CNN
not
doesn't agree with it.
what you're saying.
Maybe some people who work here don't agree with it. This is just a forum so people can express their opinion. You know where
What
I
I'm
stand on
saying
this.
is,
I think discrimination
You're
is
fine with that.
discrimination. That's my opinion, and I think that
Every
that the
client
people who are
we
saying
have-
that
Right
this is
now,
about
you're being
discrimination,
allowed to do that.
they're being disingenuous. Go ahead, Rita.
I'd like to say.
Every client we have, every client we have has served gay customers.
I'd like to say. Excuse me. I'd like to say something about the purpose of discrimination here. This bill in Arkansas was brought to us by the same duo who introduced the bill to prohibit the passage of non-discrimination laws in municipalities. So the city of Fayetteville, Arkansas, passed a law prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation or sexual identity. And because of that, this same team passed a state law saying cities cannot extend further rights to people than the state does. I mean, I think that's simply un-American.
Okay. Hey, quickly, I want to get to this. I want you guys to listen to David Letterman, who is from Indiana, and this is what he said on the show last night.
This is not the Indiana I remember as a kid. We all breathe the same air. We're all carbon-based life forms. And now this guy throws a wrench into the monkey works. I'm sorry. This guy throws a monkey wrench into the works.
The Indianapolis mayor told me here on CNN 2 nights ago that this is a solution without a problem. So why do you think this is resonating on a national level, Ben?
I don't know. It just seems like maybe it's a bunch of people who realize they've lost a battle that's very important to them. And that is to say, anyone under 30 is okay with gay rights. The whole thing is ancient history. All we need is a little bit of time, and this will simply be a joke.
Yeah.
And sometimes when people are feeling that their point of view is being lost and they're becoming an anachronism, when they clutch at what they used to believe,
there it is.
Not very
I have to tell you, as a person of color who happens to be gay and who has studied a lot about this, those same arguments, the same Bible verses, the same things people say about Jesus were used against black people and interracial marriage.
That's true.
And here it is.
Word for word.
That's absolutely true.
Thank you all for joining me.
So I'm interested in knowing what the hell that whore was going to talk about. That whore in Arizona, who, you know, Arizona is my home state. I don't know if I think Arizona may be one of those laws that has the religious freedom thing. But again, when you're talking about the religious freedom law, if you're talking about the federal law that stops the government from arresting people who engage in their religious, that's very different. When you do here's the thing. When I've said it a million times, religion is about drawing the drapes, locking the door, and doing your goddamn thing. Who said that originally? I think it was Carlin. George Carlin said, "Draw the drapes, draw the drapes, lock the door, do your goddamn thing, and leave me the fuck out of it." Right? Don't describe it to me when you come back. It's just like taking a shit. I don't want to know. I don't care. Don't tell me about it. Don't give me any of it. I don't want any of it. And that's what religious freedom is about, right? Being able to do your thing when behind locked doors with the gates, with the drapes drawn, and you exercise your religion your way. If there's a human sacrifice or something like that, then yeah, there's going to be a problem. But if you are just not hurting anybody, if you're not infringing on anybody's rights in the worship that you do, that should be protected, as Penn Jillette said, and I think it's brilliant. The only way people with no religion, me, are ever going to be protected for religious freedom, to have the freedom to not have religion, is if the people who do have religion have that freedom. So when you're talking about the people who take peyote for their religious reasons, yeah, you don't get to, even if peyote is illegal, even if it's illegal, you don't, the religious freedom it trumps it. It really does. The drug laws are obviously an anachronism, just like the blacks cannot get married, and blacks cannot marry whites, blacks cannot be in white diners, all of that shit, right? It's all an anachronism. And when they see themselves becoming an anachronism, as Penn Jillette said, they clutch, they hang on to it for dear life. They're desperate and they're angry. And everybody, as the people die off, we all know that anybody under 30, just like Penn Jillette said, thinks not only is the gay rights thing a completely passé argument, it's idiotic. And nobody in any kind of a reasonable context thinks that gay people are lesser. I mean, it's sort of like thinking women are lesser or black people are lesser human beings. It's just not fucking true. And it's so not true that even saying it is ludicrous, right? So that's the kind of religious freedom that deserves to be protected. Now, when you start saying it's not discrimination, it's just me exercising my religion to tell you that you can't come in my restaurant, or that I'm going to deny service to you. That's not discrimination, me denying service to you. That's me exercising. They're trying to, kind of cover up, or, they're essentially claiming that discrimination is not really discrimination. It's obvious bullshit. In fact, it's so obvious that people sometimes struggle with how on earth are these retards even, again, it's offensive to people with mental retardation, because obviously these conservative fucknuts in Indiana are much, much lower on the human race. The scale of evolution, what do you see? Fish become lizards, lizards become monkeys, monkeys become Neanderthals become Cro-Magnon, or whichever way it goes, and then eventually you get Homo sapiens, right? That whole chart of the different creatures walking. And I said earlier, Brock Lesnar from the WWE looks like the one before Homo sapiens. But these people are one or two characters before. I mean, even Brock Lesnar probably in his entertainment WWE status probably is going. I mean, most of the wrestlers, I think, they're entertainers. Nobody really cares about what they have to say or what they think. But I feel like anybody who's been in the entertainment industry has been exposed to gay people to the level that they understand it's not a danger. They probably have people in their family. They probably have people that they work with that are gay, and they understand that not only is it backwards and idiotic to sort of deny them rights in any way, but it's, it deserves to be stood up for in a very real way. What was the other story I wanted to bring? I think it was another gay story, actually, and I'm not big on doing gay news, but let's do this other one. Oh yeah, a basketball team who was chased. This is very recent. This is from rawstory.com. Again, not one of my favorite news outlets, but it is pretty good as far as being fast. Why can I not? Okay, can I just copy that? Thank you. Let's look at it here, because I feel like that's another story that is interesting enough to bring, especially because, just as I got done saying, nobody under 30 is anti-gay. This gay basketball player and teammates was chased from a gym in Kentucky by opponents. I hear you're a faggot. And he's a cutie pie. He's going to be I was going to say lady killer someday, but he's going to be, he's going to be a good looking man when he becomes a man. An Eastern Kentucky teen was forced to come out because he was kind of outed. Delton Maldonado, a senior point guard for blah, blah, blah high school, said opponents taunted him with anti-gay slurs during a 73-41 thrashing. That does not say whether Betsy Lane High School won or lost. Hey, number 3, I hear you're a faggot, one of the players said. Maldonado said he was faced with a choice. So here's how he replied. He used sarcasm. Yeah, baby, can I have your number? Ooh, holy shit. And then with that, he kind of went back to the locker room afterward, realizing he had just come out. Just days after he told his parents, he came out to the whole London thing. And the coach urged other players to rally around him and support him, stood up and announced he was gay. Then the people from the other team pounded the bus. They were there waiting in the bus, not in the bus, but at the bus. Some of them tried to get on the bus. They made shooting gestures with their fingers, which is not, I mean, I don't know if that's a crime or not. I don't think so. I think it's only a crime if you actually have a real gun. They kept yelling that word, faggot, said his teammate who knew his friend was gay. They wanted to get to Dalton. It was intense. But then here's the really touching part. To this day, I haven't lost a friend over coming out, said Maldonado. I've actually become closer to them. In fact, and this is, I think, the common experience for most people who've come out as gay, most of the time. In fact, one person in my school and on my team I was scared to tell sung the song Same Love to Me and told me he would always be here for me and he was proud of me. So that's really sweet. I'm not a big, I think that's that, what's his name, Macklemore. I'm not big into modern music. In fact, I really don't like that Macklemore at all. But I do like that he's, you know, kind of, I don't know if he's gay or has a producer that's gay or what the story is. In fact, I guess I could look that up really fast. But it's like, you know, to have a song from a pro-gay, pro-LGBT artist, Macklemore. Let's just see. Yeah, that is that Macklemore person. Ben Haggerty is his real name. He was born in 1983. An American rapper, white guy. Does it say he's gay? Personal life. Let's switch to this really fast here, and you can read it along with me instead of looking at my stupid-ass mug. We got 10 minutes to go here. Here's Macklemore's Wikipedia page. He became his girlfriend engaged. He became engaged to his girlfriend of 7 years in 13. So he's not gay, but he voiced his support of LGBT rights and same-sex marriage with that song "Same Love," which condemns homophobia in mainstream hip-hop society, mass media. And so that's the end of that story. He's not gay, but he's pro-gay. I think that's a pretty bold thing, especially in like the hip-hop community, certain communities like, you know, the major sports communities. When somebody comes out in the NFL, that's not a small deal. When somebody comes out in the rap community, you know, rappers are known for being violent in some cases, you know, usually not I say usually, but in many cases ex-cons or people who've been to prison or jail. Weapons, drugs, you know, they're big into all that kind of counterculture, whatever the hell. But you know, I think if it, you know, here's the thing. Even the people who are pro-gay or pro-LGBT rights, whatever you want to say, might, in certain contexts, NFL, hip-hop world, whatever it is, be afraid to say so if someone else hasn't already said it. Like if everybody else if there's this kind of overall wall of quiet or wall of silence, or, you know, just kind of, if it's just not done for whatever reason, then it might scare people who do feel differently or who do support such a thing to say so. And so now that Macklemore's out and said, and here's the thing, not just pro-gay or anti-gay people, but, you know, saying so as a straight person, that's very powerful. The other one I think of, Chris Warcraft, that's not his name. Chris Cluey is his name. He's the NFL player who just, I mean, annihilated. Let's look at Chris Cluey here before we wrap things up. Let me switch back to the screen because this is, again, just very profound. Macklemore is what I want. Okay, there's the Macklemore screen. I don't know why that was not one of the options. There we go. Okay, let's look up Chris Cluey, because Chris Cluey is quite a man. Not only is he a big, hot football player who really is quite awesome, but there he is. He's also like a gamer. He retired from professional football already because he was released by the Vikings. He played in the Oakland Raiders briefly. I never got to meet him or interview him or anything, but he's an outspoken advocate for same-sex marriage and gay rights, and the result was and continues to be one of the more controversial figures in the NFL. Most recently, Cluey threatened to sue the Vikings for wrongful dismissal unless special teams coach Mike Pfeffer was given a 4-game suspension, and the Vikings released a report written in response to Cluey's accusations. Cluey accused the coach of making remarks that Cluey found offensive and the team of releasing him because of his opinions and his views on civil rights and human rights. After the Vikings suspended the coach for only 2 or 3 games and released 1.5 pages of the internal report, Kluwe stated on Twitter he was extremely unhappy with the response and would proceed with the lawsuit. So I actually didn't know if is that still continuing? Is there a date on that? That is fascinating. He had a very tense relationship with team owners in the Minnesota Vikings and coaching staff due to his outspoken views, while at the same time setting 11 individual team records, which still stand as of 2014. That's impressive as hell as well. He's 33, so he's like 7 years younger than me. He's a genius because not only is he like a gamer and other things, but he's a great writer. He wrote a book, Beautifully Unique Sparkle Ponies, released in 2013, a collection of essays on various topics. And the title comes from the public consumption version of Kluwe's Deadspin letter to State Assembly Delegate Emmett Burns. That's the one I wanted to see. Can we pull that up? Kluwe, Chris Kluwe, Deadspin letter. There we go. This is genius. This is where we'll wrap it up. I was an NFL player until I was fired by 2 cowards and a bigot. But that's not the really good one. That's actually one that I wanted to read. But this is the one I wanted to see, because this is from a couple of years ago, 2012. He wrote to a state delegate of Maryland, Emmett C. Burns Jr., who's a complete piece of shit. Dear Emmett C. Burns Jr., I find it inconceivable that you are an elected official of Maryland's state government. Your vitriolic hatred and bigotry make me ashamed and disgusted to think that you are in any way responsible for shaping policy at any level. The views you espouse neglect to consider several fundamental key points, which I will outline in great detail. You may want to hire an intern to help you with the longer words. 1, as I suspect you have not read the Constitution, I'd like to remind you that the very first amendment in this founding document deals with the freedom of speech, particularly the abridgment of said freedom. By using your position as an elected official when referring to your constituents so as to implicitly threaten the Ravens, to state that the Ravens should inhibit such expressions for employees, more specifically, Brendan Ayanbadejo, not only are you clearly violating the First Amendment, you also come across as a narcissistic fromunda stain. I had to look up fromunda. I think it means vagina or cunt. Okay, slimy residue under a nutsack. So it's essentially smegma. Okay. What on earth would possess you to be so mind-bogglingly stupid? It baffles me that a man such as yourself, a man who relies on that same First Amendment to pursue your own religious studies without fear of persecution from the state, could somehow justify stifling another person's right to speech. To call that hypocritical would be a disservice to the word. Mind-fucking obscenely hypocritical starts to approach it a little bit. Quote, number 2, quote, many of your fans are opposed to such a view and feel it has no place in a sport that is strictly for pride, entertainment, and excitement. Holy fucking shitballs. Did you seriously just say that as someone who's deeply involved in government task forces on the legacy of slavery in Maryland? Have you not heard of Kenny Washington, Jackie Robinson? As recently as 1962, the NFL still had segregation, which was only done away with by brave athletes and coaches daring to speak their mind and do the right thing. And you're going to say that political views have no place in a sport? I can't even begin to fathom the cognitive dissonance that must be coursing through your rapidly addled mind right now, the mental gymnastics your brain has to tortuously contort itself through to make such a preposterous statement are surely worthy of an Olympic gold medal. The Russian judge gives you a 10 for beautiful impressionism. 3. This is more a personal quibble of mine, but why do you hate freedom? Why do you hate the fact that other people want a chance to live their lives and be happy, even though they may believe in something different than you or act different than you? How does gay marriage in any way, shape, or form affect your life? If gay marriage becomes legal, are you worried that all of a sudden you'll think about penis? Quote, oh shit, gay marriage just passed. Got to get me some of that hot dong action, unquote. Will all of your friends suddenly turn gay and refuse to come to your Sunday ticket grill outs? Unlikely, since gay people enjoy watching football too. I can assure you that gay people getting married will have zero effect on your life. They won't come into your house and steal your children. They won't magically turn you into a lustful cock monster. They won't even overthrow the government in an orgy of hedonistic debauchery because all of a sudden they have the same legal rights as the other 90% of the population. Rights like Social Security benefits, child care tax credits, family and medical leave to take care of loved ones, and COBRA health care for spouses and children. You know what having these rights will make gays? Full-fledged American citizens, just like everyone else, with the freedom to pursue happiness and all that entails. Do the civil rights struggles of the past 200 years mean absolutely nothing to you? In closing, I would like to say that I hope this letter, in some small way, causes you to reflect upon the magnitude of the colossal foot-in-mouth clusterfuck you so bravely unleashed on a man whose only crime was speaking out for something he believed in. Best of luck in the next election. I'm fairly certain you might need it. Sincerely, Chris Cluey. P.S. I've also been vocal as hell about the issue of gay marriage, so you can take your I know of no other NFL player who has done what Mr. Badejo is doing and shove it in your closed-minded, totally lacking in empathy pie hole and choke on it, asshole. Holy motherfucking shit, dude. You gotta love that letter. You gotta love that in every major way. I feel like I wish I could review the original thing that the other player, Badejo, had said. And I mean, these are the other. In fact, before I go, let's look at Emmett C. Burns Jr. on Wikipedia and just see if Emmett C. Burns Jr. I don't know if I spelled it right, but there it is. Okay, Emmett C. Burns Jr. Here he is. Is he still there, or did he get voted out? He is currently serving his fourth and final term in the Maryland House of Delegates, representing District 10. He's currently a member of the blah, blah, blah. He's not seeking re-election in 2014. So I guess he'll be either terming out or already has termed out. So there's that. And Chris Cluey, not just a hero for, like, you know, gay rights, but a hero for good writing. That's fucking powerful shit, man. All right. I didn't expect to go on that kind of sort of rant, but hey, Thursdays are kind of a free-for-all here. Going to take Friday off. Saturday, we're back with the fast food, junk food show. Me and Sarah Bell coming to you live from Portland, and me from parts unknown. Make it a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you back here for cBas After Dark on Sunday night, 11 p.m. on the Pacific Coast and 0600 GMT. Good night.